I'm going to go ahead and get started and welcome you as people are joining our call tonight. Thank you. This is our last community Zoom call of 2020. I know most of us are saying, yeah, let's just go on to next year. Maybe next year will be better. But we are a little bit sad to see these calls end. They've been wonderful. I think there have been some connections that were made, some good information has gotten shared, and really thankful for your participation. And I'll be working on pulling together topics and speakers for 2021. We'll probably start late January, early February. And if you have ideas of someone that you've heard that is a good speaker and has good information to share, don't hesitate to contact me through the Wings for Widows website, because I'm the person that makes those phone calls and makes those connections and lines up those speakers. So it'd be a great resource for me to have some of you put your feelers out and give me that information. I'd really appreciate it. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about the end of the year. And I wanted to share some things that I feel I've learned, but also that I did some work and research to try to come up with some really COVID-safe ways of doing the holidays this year in the midst of our grief. So, number one, I want you to step outside yourself for just a moment and give yourself a pat on the back. Think about what you've been through this year, what you survived in the last several months, the death of your best friend, your companion, your soulmate, a total change in your life circumstances, the highest level of stress by any measure, profound loneliness, and on top of that, an unprecedented historic disruption of normal life due to this pandemic. And yet you're here tonight, listening to me and seeking a way to move forward. You haven't given up. You've resolved to find a way to make the best of the days ahead. You've endured some incredibly hard things, and you can do this too. Often I found over the past years, the anticipation over how hard something's going to be is worse than the actual thing itself. So while Thanksgiving dinner lasts about 3 hours, you could easily spend 3 weeks dreading it. Holidays are important, but this holiday is not going to be normal in any way. So I think it's healthy to just decide to accept that and give yourself permission to just let go of all of the expectations and pressure to make it what it can't be. It kind of helps that everyone is grieving right now. They're grieving the loss of normal life. So in the midst of all of this, perhaps you'll find that other people understand you better than you think they will. Everyone is struggling. Everyone is sad. Everyone is trying to find some sort of way forward. Everyone is looking for a way to be happier. So I'm suggesting that with a little thought and creativity, you can find a way to move forward into the holidays. Here, I think, are some COVID-safe tips. Number one, take care of yourself. Remember that grieving is taxing physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It's just plain hard work, and it really does tire you out. If you're not doing so, start now to try to form a routine that includes enough sleep and eating correctly. Go to bed and get up at the same time every day. If you're not eating right and you find it hard to cook for one, which I really did, consider joining a meal service like Blue Apron or Hello Fresh or even Nutrisystem temporarily. It'll cost extra, but you'll eat better, you'll waste less food, and it keeps you out of the stores and away from virus spread. Try to get a little exercise every day, even if it's just a half-hour walk. Exercise relieves stress. It gives you time to think and pray. It helps improve your body chemistry and deters depression. It gives you more energy and makes you feel better about yourself. If this is hard for you, remember all those people that wanted to help you and offered to help you and you didn't know what to ask them to do? Now's your chance. Call them. Call a friend or neighbor and say, would you just walk with me on Tuesdays and Thursdays? They will probably jump at the chance to do that with you. Or you could offer to walk a neighbor's dog. And that way you're helping someone else and you have companionship. Number 2, focus on what really matters most and things that don't change. If you're a person of faith, you can focus on the truths upon which your faith is based. Read scripture, read books that help you focus on hope. Listen to music that you love, that's healing and helpful. Sometimes that's difficult or painful. Speak your feelings out loud as a prayer. And be aware of the still small voice that you might hear saying, I love you, I'm with you, I will not let you be alone. Notice the beautiful things around you. Find things to be grateful for. Some people I know keep a little journal right next to their bed, and they try to write down 3 things they're thankful for in the morning when they first wake up and just before they go to sleep. This little exercise brackets your day with something positive, even if all you can say is, I am breathing, or I have heat in my house. Try not to spend too much time on social media and watching TV news. Another widow I know has promised herself she will not turn on any devices until she has spent time praying. And I would add exercise, just a little walk. Number 3, as much as possible, hang out with people who allow you to be real. Establish a safe, small group of family or friends who, if you're tired or sad or suddenly need to cry, they're okay with that. If you want to talk about your loved one, they're happy to join in and share their memories too. Those people are true gifts. Give yourself permission to say no to any invitation where there are expectations that you're going to behave in a certain way. In other words, that you're not grieving. It's okay to say no when you're invited to spend time with people who just suck the life out of you. But on the other hand, don't isolate yourself. It is all too easy to just avoid people entirely and wallow in your sadness, like I say, circling the drain. It's just unhealthy to do that. On the other hand, do remember that it's okay to be happy. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to enjoy yourself. It is not a betrayal of your loved one to do that. Number 4, make a plan. You can't control everything, but you can control some things. It's important not to leave things to chance. If you know that a certain day or event will be especially difficult, decide ahead of time how you'll handle it. Don't deny your feelings, but find the right way to work through them. For example, if your spouse and you always made it an occasion to go out and pick or cut down your Christmas tree, make a plan for how to handle that. Will it feel better just not to have a tree this year? That's okay. Would it work to go with a friend or family member to get your tree? That's okay too. Or do you want to start something completely new and do nothing like what you've done in the past? Whatever is best for you is okay, but don't leave it to chance. You'll still feel grief and it still will be hard, but if you own this plan, it will give you a sense of confidence that you can move forward. And do plan activities. It's important to have things to do to get you out of the house and give you something to look forward to. If you can bake cookies or make gingerbread houses with your grandkids or your neighbor kids, do that. If you can plan a trip to the Como Pavilion to see the Christmas display or go out to see the lights, do that. If you like to go sliding or ice skating or snowshoeing with your family or friends, do it. Plan it. If you'd rather just veg in front of the Hallmark movie channel with popcorn and a couple of good friends, that's a great idea too. Just make those plans. My husband's family and I have had weekly Zoom calls over the past several months, and we've really enjoyed it. And I was thinking the other day it would be fun to set up a virtual party via Zoom with them. We could do a recipe exchange or have a game night or an ugly sweater contest or something like that. We could pick up those Compassion International shoe boxes and fill them together as a family. Even though it's virtual, it's a connection and it gives a chance for us to talk and find out how each other are doing. Number 5, set realistic expectations for yourself. If you don't feel like writing cards, you don't have to. If you don't feel like baking, you don't have to. If your house isn't the cleanest, who cares? If shopping and wrapping get you down, just keep it simple. If you're the one that usually hosts holiday gatherings and you feel like you can do that and be COVID safe, perhaps this is the year to minimize that. Shorten it, simplify it, do potluck, or ask for and accept help. Do only the holiday preparations that you really enjoy. And while you're doing it, turn up that music and put on a corny movie and listen to a book on tape that you love and make noise. I think that's the remedy for all that loneliness. Lots of loud music and dancing around the kitchen. It helps put your mind on something else. Number 6, plan to remember and honor your loved one. It's a good idea to look at a way to start a new tradition or make a special effort to continue an old one that your loved one especially liked. It could be as simple as just looking at old photo albums or talking about your loved one, or it could be setting a place at the table or lighting a candle in their memory, or it could be doing something for a charity in their honor. Maybe it's making his favorite Swedish meatballs for Christmas Eve dinner, or meeting at his grave to put a wreath there and drink hot cocoa together and go for a walk. It could be as simple as lighting a candle at the table or doing something else that your family enjoys and just spending that time talking about your lost loved one. Brainstorm with your family to see if you can figure out something that would be meaningful for all of you. Number 7, remember that everyone grieves differently. What helps you may be uncomfortable for your kids or your family members or friends. It's okay if others can't join you wholeheartedly, but don't give up on those plans either. You may be surprised when sometime next summer someone says up at the cabin, hey, you know, singing Silent Night in Dad's memory was really hard, but that's the thing I remember the most about Christmas. Number 8, hang on to hope. Remember that most people do eventually enjoy the holidays again. Hang on to that hope. You will get there. Experiencing nostalgic, painful, tearful moments is not a bad thing. It's normal. It's a part of life after loss. The Marines say, pain is weakness leaving the body. But I have learned that grief also leaves painfully, but each time it holds a little less power over us. If you feel like you're stuck and you really can't move forward, consider whether perhaps it's time to seek professional help. I wanted to give you a few more kind of creative ideas for how to celebrate your holidays with potentially new traditions that you might want to give a try or think about. Number 1 is a memory tablecloth. One of my friends has done this for many years. She bought an inexpensive plain tablecloth, puts it on the table, gravy stains and all, and we all write on it something about this past year and then put our name in the year that we're writing. It just has become kind of a wonderful memory. And it's so cute to see like the little ones as their handwriting changes over the years. One suggestion I would have is if you don't want to waste a good tablecloth, just buy a paint drop cloth and use that with permanent fabric markers. Another idea is a candle ceremony, basically like what you would do in a candlelight service at church, except you do it around your table. Each person has a candle. As you light your candle, you talk about your loved one and share a memory, and go around the table, and at the end where everyone has their candle lit, sing a song or pray and close the ceremony out with something together. Another idea is a holiday memory or gratitude box. What consumes your mind controls your life. Practice gratitude. This is a really good test because it's hard to find things to be thankful for at this juncture of our lives. But if you put out a little box, put some slips of paper, let people write down the things they're grateful for. And then when you're having dessert, share those, read them out loud. And if your family's had a tough year, writing down things you're grateful for can perhaps steer our thinking and perspective in a different direction. A memory tree. Pinterest is a wealth of information about creative things you can do or order if you're not creative, ornaments to remind yourself of your loved one. It could be just something you think is nice, a photo ornament, something you can even get one with their signature on it, something that symbolizes your loved one, and then set up a small tree that can be used as a memory tree and make an event of decorating that tree. It will give your kids and you a chance to reminisce and talk about the ornaments and what they signify. Another, I think, good idea, and I had to really work on this the first year after my husband died, because I was always thinking, what if I had done something differently? Would it have made a difference? What if we had done this? What if we had done that? What if I hadn't gone to work that morning? You can't change the past. So I think this is a good exercise. You write down the things that you regret, that you feel guilty about, even things you're angry about or that you resent about what has happened in this past year. Light a fire and throw it in there. You could make a little ceremony out of it. I think it symbolizes putting those regrets away from you and starting fresh. You can't go back, but you can decide how to go forward. You can make a difference. Many people traditionally give in large and small ways during the holidays. We maybe just drop change in a Salvation Army bucket, or purchase a gift for a needy child, or donate to a favorite organization. It feels like we're contributing to the greater good. Likewise, helping improve the lives of others helps take the focus off ourselves. And studies show that volunteering is beneficial for our mental health. I do know that many schools are looking for people to deliver meals to kids during the holidays when they're not in school, or even those that are learning at home. That's an option. Blood banks are desperately in need of blood donations. Soup kitchens and shelters are short-staffed. You could talk to someone at your church to find out if there's a family where they've lost their job, and if you're in a position that you could help, maybe you could make Christmas special for them, or Thanksgiving. Focusing on someone else's troubles helps take the emphasis on your own sadness and helps you heal. Time isn't the thing that heals the pain associated with loss. It's what you do with the time that matters. Grief is the process by which you heal. Experiencing the pain rather than trying to escape it all the time actually will make you feel better in the long run. So it's very tempting to pretend the holidays don't exist, or numb our pain with alcohol or food or sleeping too much. But that's just temporary, and avoiding the pain just prolongs the anguish and the healing. Eventually, the holidays will get easier, but only if you allow yourself to experience and go through the grief and celebrate these holidays without your loved one. You will find a new way. Thank you. And I'm praying and asking God to bless all of us as we approach these holidays, because this is going to be a tough one. But I hope I've given you some good ideas of things you can do to make a difference. I identify with this, this picture. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Let's see. I see some friends. All right, well, I am gonna let Grant do his thing, because I know he has a really robust, I guess that's the word they use nowadays, a robust talk to give us tonight. He's gonna talk about year-end budgeting, record keeping, things you need to know for taxes. He's got it all. So Grant, I'm going to give you a full amount of time so you have plenty of time to share. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I will echo Leanne's comments about gratitude, and I have some stuff on gratitude in my presentation as well, because it is just such a good practice. And let me share my screen here and get that going. All right. There we go. Everybody should see a presentation here. And I'm going to be talking about, as Liane mentioned, things to do towards the end of this year. And this is quite a comprehensive topic. There's a lot of things one could do at the end of the year, and we have a big audience from many different walks of life with many different situations. And so we will do our best. I think there'll probably be at least 1 or 2 nuggets, I hope, for everyone here in the meeting tonight. So the headline is year end. We're going to talk about a little bit about giving, some record keeping, and other financial considerations. I did throw in some bonus tips to dang a little bit of carrot there in the end, just for those of you that might want to stick around here. And thanks so much for taking the time out as this election wraps up. I know that everybody, at least me, I stayed up late last night trying to figure out who was going to be the president, so we'll see. On this presentation here tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about some things to consider with your assets and any debt. We will talk about some tax planning tips. That will be subjective to your situation, but I'll try to give some just good general ideas for people to consider, whether it works for you or family members. Some fun little cash flow tips, a couple notes on insurance, and some things you should be considering for the end of the year. And then a little note on estate planning, and like I said, a bonus slide that I threw in there because I was feeling it tonight. So first thing around asset and debt planning. A couple big things to consider when I talk about assets. This would include any money you have in your checking, savings, and investments, primarily is what I'm going to talk about here. Particularly for anybody who has investments, if you manage the money yourself or if you work with any advisor or anything, ask about, or if you manage the money yourself, considering selling some losses. I don't know if you knew this or not, but you're able to take $3,000 of losses against your income, your ordinary income in a year. So it can help with your tax situation. But this is time sensitive. You must sell this before the end of the year. And the stock market has gone down this year. It has since come back. And so you may not have as many losses. You may have some in there, but look at selling losses before the end of the year. And again, you can deduct up to $3,000 against your income. If you have more of a loss, that loss carries forward to the next year. And required minimum distributions, sometimes shortened as RMDs. As a quick reminder, and I've had this come up with some clients, and I will take a step back. I'm normally a financial planner, so I volunteer as a financial coach here for Wings for Widows. So doing year-end financial planning, something I'm doing right now in my practice. And so one question that has come up is just confirming that you do not need to take required minimum distributions this year. And as a quick refresher, required minimum distributions, basically the IRS forces you to withdraw a portion of your IRA each year. So that way they can get essentially they can get their cut of taxes on that account. It has been waived this year, but it will resume in 2021. And it will resume, the law has been changed, so the age has been changed. It will resume if you reach the age of 72 by the end of next year, or if you had already started them, you will need to continue doing your required minimum distributions next year. So I like to think about, with the required minimum distributions, one thing we're going to talk about is charitable giving. So a little tip here, and this is not on the slide, if you are charitably inclined next year in 2021, and you have required minimum distributions from your IRA, consider doing what's known as qualified charitable distributions. And in a nutshell, what that means is you pull the money out of your IRA, and rather than you taking it and then giving it in person, say at church or to that charity, if you pull the money out of your IRA and you send it straight to that charity directly, bypassing you, then you will reduce your taxable income. You'll save some money on taxes. So that's a little RMD tip for 2021. But again, we don't need to take them this year, but just something to keep in mind. I know that there are a lot of charities that are hurting with COVID. Giving is down. So perhaps come January, when required minimum distributions start back up, doing a charitable distribution from your IRA would be something to consider. And I always think that the year end is a nice time just to simply reflect on life, as Liane mentioned, many different ways to do that with your loss of a spouse. Likewise, you can take a look at maybe setting up a plan for debt payoff. Start the year with a plan, or if you can pay off debt with a clean slate. Some tax planning tips. So if anybody is working, or if you have adult children that are working, one suggestion I have for them towards the end of this year is for them to look at their pay stub. A lot of people are unaware that the amount that is being withheld out of your paycheck if you're working has actually been changed. And for some people, it has been lowered too much, and they may have a tax surprise down the road. So the worst thing I think when it comes to taxes is getting a big surprise bill. I don't like that. So if we know in advance that your withholding has been too small and you may owe taxes, you can make estimated tax payments or start setting money aside now for when the payment will be due in April. So that's a good little tip there that I haven't seen often in the media. Now, you can also consider making IRA, Roth IRA, or HSA contributions, but I will caveat that those deadlines are technically year-end tax time. They're not year-end, they're tax year-end. So that means April 15th, unless it gets changed again this year. So you don't have to do that by the end of the year, but starting to consider if you're going to do a contribution, maybe you need to save some money up for those. HSA, by the way, as a side note, health savings account, just in case someone's not familiar with that. This one is time sensitive. This is end of year, big consideration. Consider a Roth IRA conversion. And what a Roth IRA conversion is that you pull money out of an IRA and you move it into your Roth IRA. When you do that, you pay taxes on it. However, one reason to consider it this year, many people have been furloughed or have lost jobs, or their incomes are down because maybe their pay has been cut. And if your income is lower and tax rates right now are pretty low, it could be potentially a good time to move money from an IRA and convert it into a Roth IRA. It's really difficult to give you a rough rule of thumb that would fit everybody and whether or not it's right for your situation. So I would say reach out to a CPA, because there may be an amount that you can convert before you hit another tax bracket, or before it starts to affect the taxability of Social Security, or before it pushes you into a higher Medicare premium. So there are definitely considerations there. But if you're, in general, if your income is unordinarily low, then you can consider a Roth conversion, and that must be done by the end of the year. One other tip for taxes is there's a tax law change this year, and the CARES Act, which was enacted to help fight COVID, they made a change. And normally when you give money to charities, that's in your deduction portion of your taxes. And in taxes, basically in a quick nutshell, they raised that standard deduction. So many people don't itemize. You don't actually get a tax benefit anymore if you give to charities, if you get the standard deduction. However, this year they've changed that, and this is just for 2020. You can give up to $300 to a charity, and you will get what's known as above the line deduction, meaning it will reduce your income by $300. So you get some special tax savings this year that you wouldn't normally get. So normally the $300 you give would be appreciated by the charity, but if you're getting the standard deduction, wouldn't impact you. If some of this tax jargon like standard deductions, above the line deductions, things doesn't make sense. Again, always a good thing is just to consult with the CPA, but if you don't have one and you are charitably inclined, consider at least a $300 contribution, and it could have some nice benefits for you come tax season. Some cash flow tips for the end of the year here. The big thing, and we're already into November, and so there's not much time. Christmas is sneaking up on us, but I'm a big believer in trying to set up money in advance for known expenses, setting money aside for potential Christmas purchases. The average American racks up at least $1,000 of credit card debt around this time of the year. And as Liane mentioned, there may be many stressors with the loss of a spouse. One thing we don't want to add on top of that is stress over credit card debt or paying for Christmas presents. Liane had some fantastic ideas on ways to celebrate that may be COVID friendly or budget friendly too. So I would just re-reference her information. It was fantastic. If you are fortunate enough to be in a good financial situation where you want to consider giving money to people, say family members. One little side note is that there is a $15,000 limit per person that you can give each year without having to worry about filing a gift tax return. If you give more than that, it's not taxable to you, it's not taxable to the person getting the money, but there's just some extra tax work that has to be done. Unless you're giving extremely large amounts, that's probably best for another presentation because it won't affect many people. And that gift limit is 15 per person. So if you were going to give to family members, say you have a child and they're married and they have a spouse, that would be 30,000 to that couple. You could give 15 and 15, and you wouldn't have to worry about any issues with a gift tax return. I'm going to take a quick breath just to make sure there is nothing in chat here. Doesn't look like it from my end. Let's see here. Chat doesn't want to come up, but Liane, you can just interrupt me if there is any questions. No, okay, perfect. One little tip here is we have Black Friday coming up. If you have any major known purchases that like you need a new cell phone or a TV, computer, wait till Black Friday. I personally, so I'm a little bit techie, I always buy my cell phones on Black Friday. It is by far the best deal you can find in most cases if you need a new cell phone. I actually also buy my tires for my car on Black Friday through Discount Tire. They have a special Black Friday thing, and those prices you can usually hit throughout the year, but that's another good time. So if you have a known expense, I like to try to buy around Black Friday. Now, Black Friday is going to change this year. You don't have to worry about going into stores. It's basically all online right now, but it's helpful to create a plan, stick to it, don't get caught up in buying something because it's a good deal. We all know how, I'm guilty of that. You walk into a store and there's something there and it just looks like a good deal. And all of a sudden you have some unexpected expense there that you weren't planning for. And then as you're shopping online, just practice good cybersecurity. So that is having a good antivirus program on your computer, making sure you're browsing on legitimate websites, checking for the shield up in the corner by the website address to make sure your website is secure if you're going to shop. Don't use debit cards at all online. And I'll repeat that because some people are unaware of this. Do not use your debit card to buy things online. And in general, I don't recommend using your debit card much. And the issue is because your debit card is tied directly to money inside your bank account. And even if your bank catches a fraudulent charge, it still may tie up funds in your checking account that you may need to pay other bills. If you use a credit card, that protects you because if there's a fraudulent charge on there, your cash flow is not tied up while the financial institution works through that. So those are some just good, in general, life tips as you are browsing online and want to purchase things. Some insurance planning to consider. So towards the end of the year, if anybody's still working and you have health insurance through your employer, you may have a flex spending account, an FSA they're called. Now a flex spending account, typically the dollars inside of there, you lose if you do not spend them. An HSA, that money is yours forever. You always get that, you won't lose it. But an FSA, the flex, that one you potentially would lose the dollars. So consider spending those. And if you have any, if you have any plan documents, you can also look. Some FSAs allow you like 1 quarter up until tax time to use those dollars. So planning out if you have any medical expenses and using those FSA dollars is a good thing to do. I also think the year end, is a good time to get your insurance coverage reviewed, especially property casualty. Recently, I've been bumping into several clients who have had the same property casualty insurance for a long time, and they've been able to go and get some quotes and save a good amount of money. So just a little tip, if you need a little extra money towards the year end to cover some holiday expenses, you may find that you're spending a little bit too much on your home and your auto and umbrella policy. And so just reviewing your insurance coverage with an agent, maybe getting a competitive quote someplace else, might be a nice, easy way to kind of boost your cash flow and save a little bit of money. Some estate planning tips for the year end. When it comes to estate planning, your will, healthcare directive, and power of attorney, there aren't really any calendar year-end things that trigger there, but the biggest thing is just to take stock of life, and if there's been any major changes that aren't reflected in your plan, perhaps your situation has changed, or if you have an executor or person who's overseeing you from a healthcare standpoint, if their situation has changed, you may want to reconsider that. This is especially important with COVID going on, that if you were to contract COVID and need to go into the hospital, you would want to make sure that you have a current healthcare directive up to date and on file. Always something good to have no matter what time of the year it is. Some year-end record keeping that I like to do personally, and a couple of tips for everybody here. So I go to my bank and I download all of my electronic statements, and I put them into a folder, and I just call it 2020 and just put all the statements in there. Occasionally I've had to go back, checking savings, credit cards, and the banks and financial institutions, sometimes they don't hold on to statements for all that long. And so if you need to go back retrospectively, you having a copy and keeping them electronic so they don't take up room, no need to print them necessarily, is always something that I personally like to do. And investment accounts, towards the end of the year, if applicable for you, usually most financial institutions will have some sort of like year-end statement. And those year-end statements usually consolidate all the activity that happened throughout the year. So you can check for your year-end statement, and if it includes all the details, you may be able to get rid of some of your other statements. So that's always something to check out. This is something I do personally and that I recommend people consider, is creating a basic net worth statement. And don't let creating a net worth statement scare you if you have not managed finances or a budget before. It really is just a list of everything you own that's an asset and all of your debts, and you just subtract you have your assets and you subtract your debts from those, and that is your net worth. And I actually like to keep mine on an Excel spreadsheet. Of course, I like Excel because I'm a financial advisor, but you could use this on a notebook. You could use this in an online document. And each year, at the end of the year, I go and I make a note of all the balances of all my accounts and just take a snapshot. And that way I can kind of see the direction that my accounts are heading. So I think it's a good year to reflect on what's been happening in your finances. And if you haven't planned a budget and that's something you're looking to do, year end is a really neat time to do that as well, because you can look back on expenses and say, on average, how much do I spend a month in groceries, and how much did I spend on different insurances, different streaming services. Dining out normally would be a big one, but not this year. Gas costs, driving around, gas might have been down. So just taking stock of where the money has flowed. And I'm a big believer in trying to live your life intentionally. And what I mean by that is when you look back at what has happened through your expenses, decide like, okay, I spent blank amounts on Amazon. Do I want to do that again? And then that way, if you know where your money went, you can better plan for where it's going to go in the future here. And wrapping up on my bonus slide, and thank you so much for everybody who has stuck around for this. Hopefully you've gotten some tips here. My last bonus slide for tonight, and Liane already covered it, so I'll give her an A+ on that. The year end is a wonderful time to find what went right, and specifically training your brain to look for what's right, because what's wrong is always available. It's easy to find the aches and pains, whether that's emotional or physical. But what is right is, it takes a little effort. So I like to specifically apply my focus to that. And Socrates has a wonderful quote on this: and an unexamined life is not worth living. And one little tip that I thought of, and I do this, I don't know if anybody out there does this too. At the end of the year, I actually check all my smoke detector batteries, if there's any battery operated ones, and I go through and I put new 9-volt batteries in all of those. So that was just a little personal tip that I thought somebody might appreciate there. And that is what I had to share, kind of my year-end financial tips and everything. And if anybody has any questions that I didn't cover, be happy to answer those in the time being. Otherwise, I'm sure Liane and I both wish you a fantastic holiday season here coming up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Grant. That was just great. And overwhelming too. That's a lot. It's a lot to think about. Yeah. But thank you. And I know that everybody is, all of our coaches are available to answer questions. So if you do have something that is maybe specific to your life and you have a question, that's what we're here for. That's what we want to help you with. Same with me. If anyone just wants to talk to somebody, reach out to me. You can go through the Wings for Widows website. I know this is just a tough time for everybody, and sometimes just talking to someone else that kind of gets it is really a big help. So feel free to send me an email through the Wings for Widows website. Thank you for attending. And again, like Grant said, we wish you, Chris is on tonight here, I just saw you. We wish you all the best. And even though this is a weird and crazy time, as we've all been talking about, I'm sure for the last several months, there is a way, and we will find it through this time and come out stronger on the other end. So
Liane, if I could, I just wanted to, I'm actually here every week that we do this. So I've gotten to listen to all of our speakers. And by the way, I'm Chris Bentley, I'm the executive director, and I see a lot of familiar faces. It's great to see you. But I did want to say, I think we saved the best for last. Liane, that was incredible. Somehow we've got to bottle that. That should be our last um, presentation every year. That was so well done. And I think if Grant keeps doing this, well, this is his second appearance, and I could listen to Grant all day. He just has the nicest voice and the best tips. And as a financial advisor, I really appreciate the great information that he was presenting to you tonight. It was all spot on. And Grant, thank you very much for being part of our not only our coaching team, but the larger Wings for Widows organization as a presenter. And I really do believe that we saved the best for tonight. So I look forward to having you back next year. And again, I wanted to just say thank you to all of you. And I wanted to give Liane a round of applause for hosting this incredible
Absolutely.
building community speaker series this year. I don't know how many weeks it was, Liane. Did we have 13 or 14? I think it was 14. I think you make 14 presentations, if my math's correct. And they've been very, very powerful. I've learned some amazing things, and I hope you all have too. So I just wanted to stick my nose in here and say thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good holiday.
God bless you all.
God bless you.